Good morning, friends. Good morning, listeners. Good morning, Lou.
Good morning.
So, last time we finished up to the 10th quality of the 35 qualities of a spiritual person, a bhakta. And today we're going to do 11, 12, 13, and 14. And 13 and 14 I like a lot, and hope you do too.
Okay, good.
Sorry?
I said, ooh, good. I'm excited now.
Yeah. So the 11th quality is called Drid Nishchay. Now, Nishchay means conviction, and Drid Nishchay means firm conviction. So the Gita says, Krishna says in the Gita, that a spiritual person has to have Drid Nishchay, which means firm conviction about whatever he is doing to follow that spirituality or this path towards the self. So, how do you get firm conviction? If you don't have firm conviction, it means that somebody has told you about it and you're believing in it because somebody told you about it. That's really, it's a blind belief. That's fanaticism. Somebody that says, okay, I believe in it because somebody told me. You really have to know what it is that somebody's telling you, and you have to be presented, as in the Gita, they present ideas with absolute logic and reason. And you question it, and you think about it, and you reason with it. And then when you're convinced, that becomes firm conviction. So fanaticism is not based on logic or reason, just a blind belief, and a spiritual person does not do that. And we'll talk about what exactly a student should do in order to get to that position where he has firm conviction. The 12th quality says, in the Gita says, Krishna says, with mind and intellect dedicated to me. There's a lot of misunderstanding with what that means, to say, well, how can somebody say it's dedicated to me? Who do you think you are? When Krishna says dedicated to me, the me is with a capital M. Me meaning he's referring to Krishna as a human being in Gita who has reached his self. So imagine that Brahman, all over the universe is Brahman, the life, consciousness. And a small part of Brahman is within you. You're trying to get to that. You still have a mind, you have a nose you can smell with, you have vocal cords with which you can speak.
Yep.
But now you've become one with that Atman, that spirit, that soul, that God. So really, you can still smell with that same nose. You can still speak with the same voice box, but you're really now one with Atman. That means that you are God speaking through the same vocal cords. You're not just somebody that has normal desires and selfishness and so on. You've become the Atman. You've become the Brahman. So with mind and intellect dedicated to me, meaning that if you, Lou, you the listener, have your mind and your intellect dedicated to your soul, then he's talking about that being me, which is the Atman. Maybe a little difficult to understand, but me means the self. When Krishna in the Gita says me, he refers to the self with a capital S for each one of us, the Atman or God within us, consciousness, the life within you, the force. Mind has feelings, intellect has thinking, and it says if you're truly spiritual, your feeling must go towards the higher, which is yourself. And your thinking must also go towards yourself. You must feel what you understand, and you understand what you feel, towards that higher self. If it's just feeling towards a higher self without understanding what you're doing, and that's why we're talking so much, trying to understand, because these are the basics that we're trying to get past before you get any further. You must understand what you have, what you feel. If you have feeling without understanding, it's blind belief or fanaticism or superstition. So how do you have that devotion, feeling, and understanding, but also you must have humility? The Gita in the 4th chapter talks about 3 qualities of a student. Right? Gautam Jain talks to us, teaches us. We're all students. Swami Parthasarathi taught him. He is the ultimate guru from which we all learn. The Gita is the ultimate from which all of us are learning. And in the 4th chapter, the Gita talks about 3 qualities of a student. One is surrender. Second, question whatever is told to you as that student who has surrendered. And the third is service to your teacher or service to your guru.
Yes.
People misunderstand that to say, what? The guru's asking for service? It's like you're making me a servant of yours. But let's do the first one, which is surrender. You have to surrender your ego. Your surrender, if you don't surrender your ego, say, I know.
Yeah.
What is he going to teach me? If you do that, if you're egotistical, you can't really learn. You have to surrender to say you know more. But if you surrender and you don't do the second, which is question whatever is told,
right?
Again, that's blind belief, because you're just surrendering and you're accepting whatever's told to you, and that's fanaticism then. So the second, with surrender and no question, you're just blindly following. So you must question. With surrender and questions, you're finding logic and reason. And if you just say, okay, I surrender, now I'm going to question everything you ask me, don't become argumentative, but just ask so that you have firm logic and reasoning to all of your questions. But if you don't have servitude, if you don't have service to your teacher, you're egotistical. You must have that so that you develop within yourself a attitude of gratitude, so that you're grateful to your guru, the person who taught you. If you're selfish, you cannot learn. So that selfishness has to go. You have to start becoming more selfless to say, I learned this from him, he learned it from him,
yes.
He learned it from the Gita, and so you become more, try to be more service-oriented. The 13th and the 14th qualities are lumped into one. And these are the ones that I said I really like them a lot. It's helped me a lot. And you say, the Gita says, by whom the world is not agitated. That's the 13th one. By whom the world is not agitated, and who is not agitated by the world. By whom the world is not agitated,
yes,
but he who is not agitated by the world, who is freed from joy, envy, fear, and anxiety, he is dear to me. Again with a capital M. What does that mean? It sounds, like I said, the Gita had to be short and concise because it was not written, it was conveyed by oral terms. It had to be short. When the British first saw this, they said this is the voice of human civilization in its infancy, because it doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. But this makes a lot of sense. Break it down. Let's take the last one first, which is, he is dear to me. What does that mean? It's not, Krishna not saying, well, I'm fond of him more than I'm fond of the other guys because he's, not agitated by the world. Me refers again to the whole force that makes the whole world. The life force, Atman, Brahman. That force, you're dear to me means closer to me. So you're closer to that life force because you're getting there. That's your purpose, right?
Yes.
Your purpose is to get towards yourself. You are closer, you are dear to me, you are getting closer to me because of those things where you're not agitated by the world is not agitating you. You are free from joy, envy, fear, and anxiety. Therefore, you're closer to me, meaning you're getting closer to your goal. You're getting closer to that self of yours. Right? Any questions about that, Lou?
No.
Okay.
I'm processing.
Okay. Dear to me only means that such a person is closer to self-realization. Atman or God is neutral. Atman, God, self, has no favorites. Atman is basically, as I said, enlivening force. It's an energy. It's like petrol in a car.
Right.
Really has no favorites. It doesn't tell you, I like you. That's like us. We are the ones that say, I like this, I don't like this. If a person is so spiritual that he is 100% focused on getting to the self, 100%, then his desires for possessions, things, enjoyments, etc. drop off, right? 100% focused on just getting to the self. How about some money? Nah, thanks, I'm really not interested. How about this? How about that? Nah, I don't really want it. I just want to pray and meditate. Go away, leave me alone. What happens is his desires for possessions and things drop off because he's so focused elsewhere. He has no selfish interests. He works only for others. That's the karma yoga that we were talking about. He's working to help other people and their welfare. Therefore, others become very pleased with him, as I was explaining in one of our earlier sessions. other people become pleased because he says he's not asking for anything for himself.
Right.
I love this guy. He works. He's pleasant to me. If I have something, he'll help me with it. He'll help the other people. You say, "Oh, what can I do for you?" He has no needs. So others are pleased with him for his service and his charity. And the spiritual person, the bhakta, does not boast. He doesn't say, "I did it, I did it, I did it." Remember, nir ahankar means no ego. He doesn't want anything for himself.
Right.
And he doesn't create any agitation within other people. Nobody else gets agitated by him because he has no needs, he has no boasting, he has no personal thing. Everybody loves him. What we should do is to say, what are we doing to agitate somebody else? If somebody gets agitated with us, you say, what did I do to make him agitated? Obviously, something in my desires didn't meet with this. Doesn't mean that you have to bend over backwards to help other people.
Right.
But if you focus your own self on your own determination to get to the spiritual self, your needs that will be disturbing others will be less. So that means that the world is not agitated by you. People say, "Oh, he's such a nice guy." He doesn't disturb me at all because he's not demanding of me. A person who is very selfish is always demanding.
Right.
I want this, I want this, I want this. The world is extremely agitated by him. Right? So that's the 13th quality, by whom the world is not agitated. The less selfish you are, the more selfless you are, the more demands you make on the world, so therefore the world is not agitated by you. Right? And the 14th quality is the exact opposite, which is that he who is not agitated by the world, which means that a person who is spiritual on his journey towards the self does not depend on the world or material things or enjoyment for his happiness and peace. He finds his fulfillment within himself. Self with a capital S. He's looking within. He becomes self-sufficient. I don't need you to cater to me, so I'm not bothering you. I don't need you to disturb me in any way because you are essentially not on my path to my self-fulfillment. He finds peace within. So the world doesn't disturb me. So the 14th quality is he who is not agitated by the world. Since you're not in any way, nothing you do bothers me because it doesn't affect me, you're not bothering me. Give you an example. If you look up on Wikipedia or Google the term gymnosophist, I think I'm saying that right, gymnosophist, Gymnosophist. The first time that word came into, it really refers to the holy man of India, gymnosophist. Alexander, who is called Alexander the Great, he wasn't that great, but Alexander, his teacher, his father was King Philip of Macedonia. King Philip of Macedonia asked Aristotle to be the teacher of Alexander. Aristotle's teacher was Plato in Greece. Aristotle was a great philosopher. They say that Plato, had come to India to learn from these gymnosophists and had studied exactly what we're studying now, gone back to Greece and were philosophers. They became vegetarians. They didn't eat any meat. And they taught basically everything that the Gita is teaching us. When Alexander was so powerful, he said, "I'm going to go to India and I can bring you back anything you want." He had conquered most of the world. He had not yet conquered India, and never did actually. But when he went there, he said, "I'm going to get there and I'm going to bring whatever you want." They have silks, they have rubies, they have diamonds, they have gold, they have power, elephants. What do you want, Aristotle, my teacher? And Aristotle said, "Bring me one of those wise men." Because my beauty, what I love, is in those wise men and their teachings. Bring me one of them.
Right.
So Aristotle went into India and he sent his captain dressed in his uniform with swords and everything, with large contingent of an army into the Himalayas and the woods, the forests where these people were. And he said, capture as many of them as you can and bring them to me. So the fable goes, if you read the tales written by Alexander's historian, that a big contingent of this army with swords and everything went into the army, into the woods, and there were these naked, totally naked Indian sadhus, rishis, gurus, that were living in the forest, long hair, never shaven, totally naked, no consciousness of, no ego about themselves. And they went to them and say, come with us. And they said, for what? Where are we going? And he says, Alexander wants you. He says, I don't want to go anywhere. He says, you better come, otherwise we're going to chop your head off. And he says, go ahead. This is just my body. It doesn't bother me. You can't chop my head off. That's not me. I am the soul, the self within. And I am become self-realized. You cut off my head, just like, with Christ. He didn't fear death.
Right.
Because he was self-realized. He says, you can chop my head off. It doesn't bother me. And he says, well, what can we do? Because this person's not afraid. They raised their sword and said, okay, we'll chop your head off. There was no fear in him at all. Because he said, this is just my body is destroying. My soul is ever immortal. My Atman is. So they took them, locked them in jail with one small window. And then the captain went inside the jail. This is how Gautam Jain tells the story. And he was blocking the light coming from the window. And he said, listen, you're in jail now. You must be suffering. What can I do? I want you to come with me to Alexander, willingly.
Yeah.
And he says, only one thing you can do is move aside, let the light come in. You're blocking the light. Other than that, I don't need anything. So these gymnosophists who are self-realized basically said, nothing in the world disturbs me. You can chop my head off. You can say, oh, I forgot. The soldier said, okay, if you're not afraid of me cutting your head off, I'll give you gold. I'll give you this. He says, of what use is this gold to me? I live here. I have no needs. I am perfectly content, ever content. No unhappiness, no disturbance. I'll just have to worry about what to do with the gold, and I won't know what to do with it. Many of these people, by the way, who live in the Himalayas, who are sadhus, when they come down once in a while to the cities, they're showered with gold and money. And they say, we have no need for this. They have no need. If they do take it back, they just put it in the cave somewhere, and they said they have no need. There's a book, Living with the Himalayan Masters, written by Swami Rama. And he says that his master had bags and bags of gold that were of no use to him. Every so often he'd give him some, he'd come down, Swami Rama would, and he writes that every year he'd get a brand new imported car in India. But these people have no needs. So they're not agitated by the world, and they don't agitate the world. Then, if you remember, the verse says, by whom the world is not agitated, we discussed that, and who is not agitated by the world, he who is freed from joy, envy, fear, and anxiety, he is dear to me. So what does that mean, joy, envy, fear, and anxiety? He who is freed from that, which means that the Gita is saying that when we crave something, those are the four emotions that automatically go with it. Joy, fear, anxiety, and envy. So you want something. You're desperate for it. You say, I hope I get it. I hope I get this promotion, or I hope I get this money, or I hope I get this, whatever it is. Before you get it, you're anxious. He who is freed from anxiety. Before you get it, you're anxious. Am I going to get it? Am I going to get it?
Yeah.
Once you get it, you feel joy. Say, I got it. But the minute you got it, after that you say, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose it. How can I prevent it from being lost? What can I do? So you got anxious that you're going to get it or will not get it. You get joy once you get it. You have fear of losing it once you have it. And then after you have it, you're protecting it, you're envious of somebody else that has more than you. So that's the envy. He says, those who are freed from this are dear to me, which means that they're getting closer to self-realization because they have no desires, so they have none of these anxieties. Now, how liberating would it be for any of us to be freed from those four? And there's many other emotions that the Gita talks about, how to get past it. So those are the four. Anyway, we are now completed up to the 14th quality of the 35. And next time we'll go on to the 15th. I won't be here next week, Lou. And we'll take a break, and we'll either do it by Skype if we can. If not, we'll see you in 2 weeks.